than 5 million Americans suffer from Alzheimer's. The diagnosis can be very devastating. Well, in Toledo, Ohio, more than 50 people are suing a clinic. Why? They claim they were falsely diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. This is a very interesting story with many nuances, and joining us via Skype is Sean, who says he was one of those falsely diagnosed. Sean, number one, I'm sorry, because I think like a diagnosis of cancer, a diagnosis of Alzheimer's is devastating. What tests did they do, and how did this even come about?
Well, I was referred to a Toledo clinic here in town by my family doctor. At that point, they sent me to the cognitive center where I met with Mrs. Jenkins. They ordered a PET scan, some lab work. I already had a order for an MRI to be completed, and 2 weeks later at my second appointment with her, she diagnosed me with early onset Alzheimer's disease.
You just said Mrs. Jenkins. So are you seeing a physician, or, what were her credentials?
As I understand it, she does not have any licenses at all. She referred to herself as Dr. Jenkins, but I do not refer to her that way anymore.
So who is authorizing these tests to be done?
She was ordering them, and her husband was signing them.
Yeah, I think
her husband's a physician.
She was a PhD, but not licensed in anything, and I guess she used her husband, the physician,
right, to sign off on the orders.
And
more importantly, the billing.
At this point, this is all alleged, but Sean, is the idea in your suit that these diagnoses were being made so they could then profit off of treatments? And if so, what kind of treatments were they offering you all?
Herself, she pretty much did just counseling and so forth, and giving ideas on how to boost your memory and things, but the majority of the care was then referred to other physicians at the Toledo.
So what I'm trying to dig deeper for here is trying to figure out the reasoning beyond the obvious one would be to make money. What I'm a little confused by in this scenario is the end game, because all the tests are being ordered no matter what, and with these 50 plus patients being allegedly misdiagnosed, that's where I'm just having a lot of trouble with.
Well, clearly, I know these are alleged claims, but clearly money is the end game here, that they were having the patients come back again. Let's retest you. Let's do another battery of cognitive testing.
And she discouraged medications, second opinions, leaving the center. Is that right, Sean?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Is it true that one man killed himself after, again, allegedly developed depression after the diagnosis?
Yes, that's correct. He was diagnosed, as well as his spouse and other members of their family.
Sean, how did you react personally when given this diagnosis? You were a young, healthy guy given this diagnosis of early Alzheimer's. How did that affect you?
I was devastated. Obviously, as a father of four and married, my mother's still alive. It concerned me how it would affect them. Obviously that played a big part of my scares in the situation.
And then subsequently you got a second opinion, and they said, no, you don't have early Alzheimer's. Did in fact they think you had some signs of traumatic brain injury from your sports history?
I knew that I had a abnormally large amount of head injuries over the years.
You played football, right?
Yeah, I also boxed for a little while, had a car accident, things like that. They did say that, obviously I have had some brain injuries in the past. More than likely I have CTE. I also sought a third opinion from the Cleveland Clinic. In both cases, they said that I did not have any signs of Alzheimer's. I also had DAT scans for Parkinson's, and I was clear on all of those things.
Well, Sean, we certainly wish you nothing but the best moving forward. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Sean, when he said CTE, referring to chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which we've heard a lot of the stories of professional football players, boxers. It's not as though a diagnosis of Alzheimer's is one where you just send off a lab result and it comes back positive or negative.
Right.
It can be a diagnosis that is somewhat subjective.
It's a little elusive, but a skilled physician can correctly diagnose it 90% of the time.
But you think about this patient in his 30s, right? Alzheimer's disease is not top of mind for me when he's coming into my office, so something was clearly up there. But yeah, it's a tough disease to diagnose for sure.
And we certainly hope, again, at this point, all these claims are alleged. We did reach out to Sherry and Jenkins' lawyer and the lawyer for the clinic. They did not have any comment, but we hope the best for all of these families whose lives were or are in turmoil. And this is the reality. You have to be aware when you go to a clinic, make sure that the doctor you're seeing is actually a doctor. We talk about it on the show all the time. Make sure you see that they are board certified. In this case, this was not even a doctor they were seeing. I want to move on because more than a third of U.S. adults are obese.